reaction to the James Comey, Letitia
Sure.
James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States could not use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What is your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust.
Something ain't right.
Something ain't right. God, isn't that the understatement of the year? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another incredible edition of World at War. I am your late night host, Dean Ryan, and what an episode we have for you tonight, as we've had to make some last-minute additions, as tonight's episode is called Mind Weapons. Mind Weapons. And what a lovely picture that is. It's almost what happens to your brain when you sell out your country. It turns gray. That's the whole point of that right there and then. And when you don't learn how to turn your tie your tie right, well, that's exactly what happens as well. All right, let's talk about what we have in store for you tonight, because we have some breaking news that's going to be coming up in our World War III segment, but I'll tell you about that shortly. But what we have tonight is it's an incredible piece of history, as now James Comey and all of the usurpers, as you heard Pamela Bondi say there. Well, looks like they're not going to prison after all, and we're going to find out why that is. I'm sure the Donald is upset about it, but kind of saw this coming. So we're going to peer into that. Also, we're going to see what the DOJ now is doing with the Epstein files. Speaking of things being released, as now is the authorization going to happen? Are they going to be released? Are we going to know about it? Or is there going to be a clear cover-up? We're going to find out what that's all about. Plus ICE and in Houston, which is huge. Some things you got to know about that. And the major crises, the economic crises and crash coming. And what about the people's energy bills? We're going to be looking into that. But the breaking news is going to be about Venezuela. And Jim Fetzer will be joining us as a last-minute addition for our World War III segment. You don't want to miss that at all. And also, Candace Owens, we're going to be seeing what's happening to her. Another major breaking news that she released over the weekend. We covered it for our members just the other day. You don't want to miss that. Plus a very, I should say, a very romantic, I love this segment coming up. It's a very romantic poetry corner. Yes, with RFK Jr. that I just can't get enough of. And I'm so glad that I was able to make a slide about it. I almost feel like showing off right now, but this guy right here, yes. You see that? Yeah, there it is, Poetry Corner featuring me. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so there you have that one. I love that one. Okay, but yeah, so we're going to talk about the new scandal that we covered yesterday with our members. Huge salacious scandal. I'm not even sure if it's PG-14 at this point. Plus some major news internationally happening as the African Great Divide is underway. And Germany's having their financial crises, and some real deal showbiz about the end of empires for certain doctors who go by Phil. Yeah, you don't want to miss that and a whole lot more here on World at War. But before we get started, we're broadcasting live over there at TheRealDeanRyan on Facebook. Yes, hello to everybody. You can see me. They hide the shows over there. What can I do at this point? Also, we're on YouTube on the Dean Ryan TV channel there, the very punished, the very just tortured channel, the lonely one. And finally, last but very least, not least, is Rumble over there at the Real Deal Media Graveyard. Okay. Let's get started now with some headlines from around the world and in your neck of the woods, shall we? Okay, let's get started here with some breaking headlines now happening as now you just heard it there. The judge dismissed the case against James Comey and Lolita James. If you missed the cold opening, let's have another gander at this little 40-second clip and let's see what it's really all about. Tell us, Pam.
If I could just get your reaction to the James Comey, Letitia James cases being dropped today. Back in Washington, James Comey put out a video. He said this matters most because a message has to be sent. The President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies. Your reaction to the cases being dropped into that specific message?
Sure, we'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
What is your reaction to his statement?
I'm going to keep going on this. I'm not worried about someone who has been charged with a very serious crime. His alleged actions were a betrayal of public trust.
Yes, indeed. Yes. So James Comey doesn't seem to be going to jail. The statute of limitations, political bias, miscreant judges, all the above at this point. But here's what we know now, as the federal judge has now dismissed the criminal indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and the New York Attorney General Letitia James just earlier today, finding the prosecutor who brought the cases, former Trump attorney Lindsay Halligan, was not lawfully appointed. Wow, that was the reasoning. Okay, well, now U.S. District Judge Cameron Curry said she agreed with Comey, who moved to dismiss the case on the grounds that Halligan's appointment was illegal. Yeah, they're really grasping for straws, finding little fractures and fissures to base their defense on. Well, here's what Curry, the judge, here's what she wrote about it. She said the following, quote, "Because Miss Halligan had no lawful authority to present the indictment, I will grant Mr. Comey's motion and dismiss this indictment." This is what Curry wrote in finding that Halligan lacked the authority to present the case to a grand jury. Wow. Wow. Now, all actions flowing from Miss Halligan's defective appointment, including securing and signing Mr. Comey's indictment, were unlawful exercises of executive power and hereby set aside, what the judge wrote. Now, a former White House aide with no prior prosecutorial experience, she made the claim against Ms. Halligan. She issued a separate, similar ruling dismissing the Letitia James case as well. And in that case, well, she said the following, that, quote, "This case presents the unique, if not unprecedented, situation where an unconstitutionally appointed prosecutor exercising power did not lawfully possess." So they're really finding, yes, some very rare exotic angles to dismiss these cases. And I wonder how this is going to wind up because, I mean, that's like That's like betting on green and a roulette table. That's very rare to find such a decision and make that one in this case. Now, next, well, that leaves us with, well, Epstein. What's going on with him now? As I'm having tech issues as usual, but that's just how it goes around here. Well, here's what's happening now in the Epstein case as things are flickering on my end, but that's just my brain, and that does that as now the DOJ is ask a judge to authorize release of Epstein and Maxwell grand jury material. Well, I thought Maxwell was just an innocent bystander who just happened to be, just hanging around Jeffrey Epstein, and she's just, casually living at the Club Med of prisons, just and getting a 5-course day, just dinners everywhere, as what we're hearing. But in this case, it might be a little different now, as there's now facing a 30-day deadline to release the Epstein files. The Department of Injustice has now asked 2 judges over there in the Southern District Court over there in New York to authorize the release of grand jury transcripts and exhibits from the prosecutions of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Yes, U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton, whom Attorney General Pam Bondi tapped to lead an investigation into prominent Democrats associated with Epstein, and just them. Well, signed a motion asking judges who oversaw the Epstein and Maxwell case to approve the release of the grand jury materials subject to necessary redactions. So they said, give us the material, give us the documents, and we'll make the spelling errors and corrections. We'll make sure it's suitable for release. Now, in light of the Act's clear mandate, the court should authorize the Department of Justice to release the grand jury transcripts and exhibits and modify any pre-existing protective orders that would otherwise prevent public disclosure by the government materials. This is what the motions have now said for release. Now, while the motion noted that the law allows redactions, limitless redactions at that, as they see fit, to seal materials that would, quote, would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. So, meanwhile, if there's really something explosive in these documents, well, then if they use the term and the maneuver of saying, well, it's under ongoing investigations, we can't release it at this time. Well, that's all they have to do. That's all they have to do to save face instead of a redaction in itself. Now, the 30-day deadline, the Department of Justice requested an expedited ruling on the motion, said it would, quote, work with the relevant United States Attorney's Office to make appropriate redactions, once again, of victim-related and other personal identifying information. So now the government really cares about the victims. They don't want to harm them with any extra stress, drama, or any additional add-ons of that nature. How suitable, how fitting of that. Okay, next we have this one here. This is this next story is, well, is just incredible. Now it's coming out of Houston, believe it or not, and it's regarding ICE. Now, Houston, before we get to it, Houston has always been a highly, highly dangerous city ever since the levees broke over there in Katrina in 2005, where the entire 9th Ward wound up evacuating to Houston, where crime has been up, at least on the immediate, 400% over there in Houston. Well, that's not all. A lot of migrants seem to have been in Houston this entire time. We'll check this out now, as major arrests have now happened, and a whole host of them to add. In fact, I'll tell you how many. This is quite stunning now, as 3,600 criminal aliens over there in Houston have now been labeled as the worst of the worst, have now been arrested. This is impeccable. Well, ICE arrested nearly 3,600 illegal immigrants in Houston during a 6-week government shutdown. Targets included violent offenders, child predators, gang members, and repeated deportees. Now, among those arrested, Leo Michael Acosta Sanchez, for one, wanted for homicide via Interpol Red Notice, and Angel Gabriel Ramirez Robles, convicted of child sexual assault, twice deported. And finally, MS-13 member Romero Ricardo Maldonado Trevino, and that's just one person, which is four different nicknames. Multiple illegal entries, alien smuggling conviction, human trafficking. Now, DHS, which is said to be based in Tel Aviv, well, that's a separate issue. Department of Homeland Security now claims that these arrests reflect Trump's, quote, most secure border in American history policy. Now, ICE used advanced software to identify high-priority targets. Agents relied on license plate tracking now and criminal database to focus on felons and child predators. Now, following similar operations over there in Los Angeles, D.C., and Chicago, and yes, even Charlotte. Let's not forget that, nor New Orleans for that fact. Now, the Border Patrol agents will assist, but local police refuse cooperation. Now, previous raids in places like Charlotte caused panic with 30,000 students absent from school. Supporters argue ICE is removing dangerous criminals to protect communities. Critics claim operations terrorize immigrant neighborhoods, disrupt families. Now, as the debate scorches on, it also continues as Trump's immigration crackdown expands. So that is a huge bust of busted people. 3,600. Can you believe that? Now, this next story here is quite interesting. As now we go to, well, what is happening with our energy now as more Americans are going dark? Yes, as now lanterns, candles are coming back into style. Well, it's kind of like the medieval times, isn't it? Well, not so fast. As now more Americans are pinching pennies as they're trying to pinch the energy cost as well. This is quite interesting now as people such as local people are paying in just where I am in California. Because as of November 13th, many people are having their power shut off. Just for example, in the past 10 days, some people have $600 of unpaid energy bills, which is kind of the average for those who are experiencing that problem. The latest string of financial humiliations that for many have begun 6 months ago as the new administration came through. Now, soaring electricity prices are now triggering a wave of power shutoffs nationwide, leaving more and more Americans in the dark. That's right, as unpaid bills pile and pile up. Although there is no national count of electricity shutoffs, the data from selected utility companies in 11 different states show that disconnections have now risen in at least 8 of them since last year, according to figures compiled by the Washington Compost and, yes, the National Energy Assistance Directors Association. Now, in some areas, such as New York City, the surge has been dramatic, with residential shutoffs in August up 5-fold from just a year ago, utility filings show. Yes, they do show that. What are we going to do? It's even worse in England. You think it's bad here in the U.S., literally worse in England. You have to literally walk around with lanterns. Those have definitely come back into style and at play here. Now, its next story is now going to bring us to the financial crisis that is now coming as the crash that we've been hearing about for quite some time. Well, it's coming, they swear. Well, here it is. This kind of explains just the last story, too. It's all kind of bleeding and blending into one now, as now the people who predicted the .com bubble explosion, well, they're now predicting a crash and a crisis bigger than anything before. That's right, and they mean it this time. Well, as the economic crisis isn't something that happens all of a sudden, it's something that is built upon, but a lot of factors weaken the economy before a major blow triggers a meltdown. Now, the famous strategist named Albert Edwards, you may know him. Yes, the societal general, they call him, predicted the .com crash all those years ago, has sounded the alarm about a looming financial crisis this go around. He said this one will be bigger than 2008's market crash. The analyst who refers to himself as a perma bear, yes, that's what he's known on Castro Street over there in Frisco. Well, he spoke to Bloomberg and Fortune magazines recently, sharing his opinions and saying he doesn't know how we're going to get out of this one, admits that he's never seen anything like it. He said 2008 is going to seem just like a little tea party. Well, he noted that each time a surge is in the market was so relentless, it usually comes back down as they're toying with the average American, the average Joe, or in his case, the average bear. So I guess that's something we have to prepare for. Is that the case? Well, finally here, as we finish here and before we get to our real deal politics, Here's Marjorie Taylor. Yeah, here she is now speaking about Epstein and what she's expecting, because all of us are kind of expecting some redacted files in its own right. But in this case, her and Thomas Massie are prepared to do their own little sermon on the the House of Appeals and Congress right there. Check this out.
I support all the lists being released. I want to see Epstein's list. I want to see the list of the sexual misconduct slush fund. You know, members of Congress and senators that taxpayer money was used to pay out their victims. I want to see all the list.
Including the Gates report.
If they're going to release one, release them all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, release them all. Release them all. Release them all. We have a Jim Fetzer on deck, and we're going to get to some breaking news. But in order to do that, we have to go to our World War III segment, as it all ties into one. You'll understand by the end of it. Here we go. Brace yourself. World War III. Let's talk about it, because things are really underway here. Well, tonight is really about mine weapons, and maybe mine weapons, definitely maybe mine weapons, are going to be the new unconventional weapons of war, and why we're so ready to go to it for that fact, as it is tonight's feature story, mined weapons. Yes, it's quite mind-blowing, no pun intended, really. Well, here it is, and now scientists have kind of let the cat out of the bag. They spilt the beans, they spilt the tea, and they're dropping us a high and a low five at the same time. Well, now mind control weapons may sound like something of a dystopian science fiction, but as you know, since 2020, we've been living in a science fiction, or a science fact, to be in fact. Well, in this case, experts are now alarming and raising the alarm bell at that case, and as this is now becoming a reality, they have now issued an ominous warning over mind-altering brain weapons that China is actively trying to get, and which also Israel's pretending they don't have it, and they're saying, "What weapons? That's anti-Semitic. Get out of here." See, now brain weapons that can target your perception, your memory, and even, yes, your behavior. Yes, have you been a jerk to people lately? You don't know why? Well, maybe somebody is playing some mind games with you with some mind weapons. Well, in a new book that has now been published by certain doctors who go by Crowley, first name, not Alistair, but Michael, and Professor Malcolm Dando. Yes, the former Lemonhead singer has now said that they argue recent scientific advances should be a wake-up call for everybody who's not paying attention. The same knowledge that helps us treat neurological disorders is now going to be used to disrupt cognition, induce compliance, or even in the future turn people into unwitting agents, dare I say dimwits themselves. Nations including US, China, Russia, and now even the UK have been researching so-called central nervous system acting weapons since the 1950s. Now, Dr. Crowley, Mr. Crowley, and Professor Dando argue that the modern neuroscience has now become so advanced that truly terrifying mind weapons could be created, and who are we kidding? They already are created. We're now entering in an era where the brain itself could become a battlefield. Yes. Well, just when you thought love was the battlefield itself, well, no, not anymore. It's now the brain. Tools to manipulate the central nervous system, to sedate, confuse, or even coerce are becoming more precise with precision, more accessible, and more attractive to states across the board. Now, throughout the 1950s and 60s, just to be exact, most of the world's major powers actively sought these weapons to develop their own mind control weapons. They thought it was a good idea to unleash LSD amongst the American youth culture, only to learn people liked it and it backfired. Their goal was to create devices that could incapacitate large numbers of people through unconsciousness, hallucination, disorientation, and yes, even sedation itself. Well, that sounds like a real trip to me. Well, that was their goal. Most famously, the American military developed these compounds, or developed the compound, I should say, BZ, which produces a powerful sense of delirium and hallucinations and cognitive dysfunction. Well, the U.S. Also manufactured approximately 60,000 kilograms of the potent drug and used it to create 340 kilograms of a cluster bomb. Although the bomb was intended to be used in Vietnam and BZ was tested intensively on U.S. soldiers, there's no evidence that the weapon was ever used, at least that they want to admit to. Now, meanwhile, the Chinese military has now developed a Norcos gun designed to shoot syringes of incapacitating chemicals. However, Mr. Crowley and Professor Dando pointed out that the only time that these weapons have ever been used in combat was by Russian security forces during the 2002 Moscow theater siege. Yes, it was. And what a theater that was. If after armed Chechen militants took 900 civilians hostage, security forces used a fentanyl-derived incapacitating chemical agent to disable the attackers. So it did work. Now, while the chemical weapon did break the siege, the gas killed 120 of the 900 hostages and an undetermined number more to face long-term health issues and a premature death. However, since then, the mind-warping potential of these weapons have extended far beyond simply knocking out attackers or triggering very, very unusual, confusing hallucinations. So we have things to look out for. Mr. Crowley and Mr. Dando are now saying they are dangerous. They are here. But where are you? And where are you going to be when you're confused and you're cognitive and your bowels are just going all over the place? We don't know yet. It is confusing. So there is that one right there. Well, before we bring Jim in here, and this is now going to bring us to the Maduro. Yes, the main man over there in Venezuela is now fearing a CIA assassination. So this all goes into this because these kind of weapons have been used in Cuba as recently and places like Venezuela. You might have heard about that. A lot of Havana syndromes, as you know, are being used in this case. But now Maduro is ringing the bell and the alarm as he's now the organization that has no oversight. They're thinking about plotting to take him out. But there's a big, big story attached to this. But let me tell you about it first. Let's start small, and we'll bring Jim in here immediately. Well, now the CIA is now just considering. They're just considering a plot to get rid of him. They're just manifesting things, and they don't know what to do. As Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro now fears for his life as the U.S. prepares a new wave of operations against the country, former regime officials have said. That's true. That's true, and you're going to find out why. It's so true that even now, get this now, U.S. airlines have halted all Venezuelan flights as of today amid security warnings of rising tensions. I can't imagine, but I thought the CIA was just considering, just playing around and not really meaning it. Well, let me tell you about this now. Venezuela deployed 15,000 troops, drones, and naval assets to its Colombian borders amid U.S. accusations of state-sponsored drug trafficking, which is yet to be proven. Now, the Trump administration has now labeled Venezuelans' alleged Cartel de Solis, a terrorist organization, doubled the bounty on Maduro's capture. Now, major airlines that fly in those directions halted all flights to Venezuela after the FAA warned of, quote, worsening securities and heightened military activity, citing threats to aircraft at all altitudes. Now, Colombian President Petro condemned the disruptions as, quote, a crime against humanity. Now, the U.S. also escalated military pressures with bomber flight simulations, the deployment of the USS Gerald Ford, a very old naval ship, very interesting, the Naval Carrier Strike Group, and lethal strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats, 80-plus fatalities since September, just to count. Also, the U.S. claims that Maduro leads a, quote, narco-terror cartel. Though experts dispute the existence of a structure in its own right, Cartel de Solis. Now, the term originated in the 90s, if you recall. CIA-linked Venezuelan military drug trafficking, now broadly applied to officials profiting from narcotics. And finally, decades-long tensions worsened under Maduro. The U.S. sanctions, asset freezes, and support for opposition leader Juan Guaido, if you recall him. During Trump 1.0, they tried to install him. Now, Venezuela's internal collapse is rather interesting. Hyperinflation, crime, passport shortages, fuel instability in the U.S. now weighs further economic, psychological leaflet drops or military action. Well, there's a lot more that is now going into this, and as breaking news is upon us now to speak about this in some of the inner depth things that are now happening in Venezuela is our very own Real Deal Media political analyst himself, Jim Fetzer. Jim, welcome to World at War.
Dean, yes. They've actually had a bounty on Maduro. So, the CIA, I think, has been actively seeking to assassinate him. But the big news, Dean, is this. Hal Turner, who has simply excellent intel connections, has reported that the South Command sailors and Marines were given steak and lobster for dinner tonight. Now, anyone who's been in the service understands that's like your last meal before going into combat. So what this signifies, when you combine with a no-fly zone that's been declared over Venezuela, the U.S. is about to assault Venezuela. It'll have already occurred by the time we awaken in the morning. And I'm sorry to say, Venezuela is prepared. They got the anti-ship Russian missiles that are the best in the world. They're unstoppable. They got the S-400 anti-missile systems. I'm declaring that if the U.S. goes forward with attack, Dean, it's going to be the greatest military one-day catastrophe in American history. They're going to sink every ship in the fleet, including the Gerald Ford, which is the largest carrier we ever developed. They have about 5,000 crew, couple thousand Marines and thousands of sailors. That's going to go down to the sea, but so is every other ship there. Dean, this is ill-fated. They should have known better. And if I and others, hearing the report from Al Turner, can see exactly what's happening as a former Marine Corps officer, I mean, these are just things if you've been in the military. Disaster awaits.
Yes, it does, Jim. Disasters await, and they're talking about psychological warfare, and that's exactly why we really got into the mind weapons, because that is exactly what's happening. Look at this. Even foreign publications here, Jim, Jim, if you could just turn down your speaker, it's just A10. Listen to this right here, Jim. This is what Venezuela is now enduring, as psychological warfare is at its maximum level. Well, check this out. Venezuela on the brink of the unknown, psychological warfare, isolation, and an intense standoff with the U.S. as the suspension of international flights to Caracas due to risk of flying over the Venezuelan territory. Jim, I think this is a signed, sealed, and delivered kind of conclusion here of what is going to happen. I think the war is imminent, but let's talk about why this war is happening, because on one end, you had Miss Lindsey Graham saying that it's because they're facilitating terror and weapons to Hamas. That's why we have to take them out. So if that is the case, then is this another war for Israel?
What's really going on is Israel is planning to attack Iran. Iran is going to shut the Straits of Hormuz immediately. That means the availability of oil is going to drop decisively. The U.S., in anticipation of the Israeli hit on Iran, and they may want the U.S. to aid and abet them, is anticipating by going after Venezuelan oil now. This is all in anticipation of events yet to develop in the Middle East. Lindsey Graham is one of the world's great liars. There's no connection between Venezuela and Hamas. And the idea, that this is narco-terrorism is equally ridiculous. Those appear to be ordinary fishing boats. There's no doubt that their destruction is a violation of international law. Venezuela is not known to be a source of fentanyl or other drugs. The idea of these little boats going all the way up to the continental United States is frankly absurd. So this is all just cover story, bullshit, gaslighting, in order to justify an action that under any reasonable circumstance would be seen as a clear act of war, violation of the UN Charter, of the Geneva Conventions and in the laws of war. It's grotesque, but that's where the U.S. sits today.
Okay, so as far as I recall, I mean, we all remember civics class. Doesn't war have to be declared and voted on by the House of Representatives and Senate?
Well, that's why they did the narco thing. If it's narco terrorism, Trump has special dispensation to take action. So that's why they made up the phony attack and took out the 15, so far as I can tell, fishing boats. They didn't do any interrogation. They had no evidence any of them had any to do with narcotics. It's a cover story, Dean, to circumvent the need for a declaration of war.
Okay, so let's talk about this too now. Where does China and Russia fall into this equation here? Because, you know, as all my research goes, Russia has been in Venezuela for quite some time, as well as China. I know Russia has moved gold into certain facilities of Venezuela. And so to me, this is a way to weaken, you know, China and Russia's influence in, you know, regionally speaking. Is the U.S., do you think, going to try to now reinstall once again their puppet? I believe is Guido. Is he waiting in the wings? Is that...
It's not going to happen. The guy's got 4 million or 8 million militia members. There's no possible way an invasion of Venezuela could succeed. It's all just a smoke screen. It's gaslighting. Most of the Venezuelan military equipment is already Russian. The Russians have been bringing in one huge plane full of supplies after another. It's those anti-ship missiles. They're all along the coastline. They are ready to fire. Once the U.S. takes a first action against, they are going to the bottom of the sea.
Yes, they are, Jim. And you mentioned the militias, and I think Venezuela has been preparing for that. This is going to unite the Venezuelans and galvanize them together. And as you see right here from Al Jazeera, is Venezuela prepared for a U.S. attack as Washington ramps up forces? Jim, now the Gerald Ford carrier, the U.S. Navy carrier, this is the same carrier they put near Israel during the attack of Iran in hopes, and even Mike Adams said this about a year and a half ago, in hopes that it would get hit. It's an old carrier, so therefore it would justify a full-on escalation of war by the U.S. Are they now prepared to do their Gulf and Tonkin again?
But the U.S. is the aggressor, Dean, and here's the deal. Russia is now fed up with the United States. We haven't been responsible international members of the community. They have objected all along to the U.S. stationing all these missile batteries on the border of Russia. Well, now they're stationing Russian missile batteries in Venezuela. And this may include the Oreshnik and other. They have the best missiles in the world, hypersonic. This is a perfect situation for Russia to play tit for tat, and they are doing it, Dean.
Speaking of the General Ford, the U.S. Navy carrier there, here's a little insight on it. Gerald Ford is a nuclear-powered super carrier equipped with advanced technology, sailing alongside guided missile destroyers, support ships, more than 4,000 personnel on there. So here it is right there. They described it as a floating fortress of American power, some facts, 2 nuclear reactors. I mean, this is... And how old is this boat? I mean, Gerald Ford, I mean, we're talking maybe 40 years plus here. Look at that there. That's huge. Okay, so now that we kind of got the basic facts, Jim, how is this going to end? Can this be prevented? Is it too late? Too soon, too late?
Oh, I look, they've served the lobster and steak, Dean. That means they're going forward. That's your last meal before going into combat. It's going to be launched. It'll be in progress by tomorrow morning. I say tomorrow is going to go down as one of the greatest disasters in American military history. Tomorrow, mark your calendar. It appears to be inevitable now.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jim, and we'll keep our eye on the prize here, and we'll catch you tomorrow night and get the latest update on this. Just pending World War III on behalf.
Let's hope somebody has the sanity to call it off, but this is how it appears to be going down, and it's going to be a catastrophe.
Couldn't agree more, Jim. So thank you for alerting me and the viewers to this. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Okay, there you have that one. I don't know what to say. You have an American president who is appearing more and more to be blackmailed, if not willfully going along with it. And who's at a 38% approval rating here in the United States. That is Trump, something we haven't seen since the Bush years. And I can't even guarantee it is even the real Donald Trump at this point. But we're going to take this quick break here and regroup and rejuvenate ourselves here from this dire news here, because the U.S. is now being used once again as the military might for that tiny, creepy country of occupiers at this point. Okay. Anyway, stand by. You're watching World at War. We have a long way to go and a short time to get there, but we'll get there. Stand by.
Be a visionary with Debonair, a player from the Himalayas, iconic, not ironic, and become a night owl tonight, where like-minded members get together at the Night Owl Lounge, enjoying extra content, backstage hangouts, exclusive interviews, by going to RealDealMedia.tv. Again, that's RealDealMedia.tv. Join tonight.
We have Maddie Lynn, who is maybe saying, gives new meaning to micromanage. Can't believe what she's referring to. Can't be the waffles, get it? We have Tangerine Dream that says, there will be a database on the manhood now. Thank you.
He means for investigating purposes, to investigate crimes. They may now take photographs of private parts.
Hey, can you believe, Jim, that there's a nude photo of me out there from my stalker in Florida that she put out there, a fictitious nude photo? But Jim, I must say, after seeing the nude photo all these years, I've gotten a lot of compliments on it. I can't be too Jim, I can't be too disgruntled about it. I've gotten nothing but compliments. Real Deal Media's shows live weeknights, sometimes Fridays, sometimes not. But sometimes we do everything extra with our Real Deal Media members. And if you're not a night owl, well, there's still time. There's still time. All you got to do is go to realdealmedia.tv, become a visionary debonair, and something special is going to be happening this coming Friday for Black Friday. That is going to be highly unusual for Real Deal Media, but a very, very good, a very good deal for the viewers out there. You'll find out more about that this coming Friday for Black Friday after Thanksgiving, which is this week, not last week like some people originally thought. I won't name them. I'm not going to say it was me. Not going to say it was me. And a major thank you to everybody who has donated to keep the fuel for this franchise going all these years, really, by going to givesendgo.com/realdealgo. A big thank you to all of you out there. You know who you are, and cannot thank you enough for that. Okay, let's get back to business around here. You know me, some business. As the mind weapons continue, and where's my mind lately? I'm not even sure these days. All right, welcome back, everybody. I am still Dean Ryan, who is your cruise director, cruising with you to midnight and beyond. And I'm just kind of lost for words here. What can we do here? And I think it's a huge. And as we go into real deal politics here in a minute, I think it'd be such a repeated travesty if everybody goes back to voting Democrats for Democrats again, and then when they screw us over, we go back to voting Republicans again. Despite all the harsh realities we're now enduring in this world, if we have not learned the lessons of the most recent history, we're going to be doomed once again to repeat it. But this is a great opportunity now to rid the wicked from our societal functions of power and try a different direction that has yet to be tried before in modern times. And I think that that could be led by certain people, whether it's MTG or Mr. Thomas. There's got to be a third way, I must say. Anyways, we're going to get to some real deal politics. Let's get into it, shall we? As something's going on with Candace Owens, that is. But let's do politics the way you like it. Real deal politics. Well, this one is, again, for the history books, is now Candace Owens over the weekend has now relinquished some very, very cold, hard facts that have now come her way, as now Candace Owens is now being targeted and marked for death, this time by the French president himself and his husband, who wears a wig. Yeah, that's true. We did this next segment we just did the other day with our members, but it's very, 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 very true and still very viable as this is now being filmed live. Candace Owens, who's really put it all on the, has cojones the size of just Montana at this point. But in this segment, you're going to see a letter she put out naming who is targeting her and why. And it's not just the French government. There's also other people at play that are now joining in on this. And it's very serious, because if they can shut down Candace Owens and people like Tucker Carlson, what are they going to do to mid and lower level people out there who are trying to get the word out about what's really going on in this world? So let's find out, shall we, as this next segment is Candace Owens getting targeted by a very, very familiar bedfellow in this case, as we hope she survives, and I know she will. She's very tough. Here it is. Well, now Candace Owens has a new claim, and this one is pretty dastardly right out there. Well, she's now claiming there's a new hit on her, as in a target, a lay target. As now Candace Owens is claiming the French government is now plotting to kill her. And this is pretty wild, as she's now saying a wild assassination allegation has now erupted after the Macrons sues over the "Bridget is a man, baby" rumor. Yeah, we heard about this. And by the way, the French intelligence, yes, their version of Mossad, they're pretty good. They're sharpshooters. So she has to be very careful now. The conservative commentator Candace Owens has now escalated her rhetoric by following a defamation lawsuit filed against her by French President Emmanuel Macron and his alleged father, who's the alleged first lady, Brigitte Macron, now claiming without evidence that French government is plotting to kill her. Well, they always say that. She has no evidence, and then she brings it, and then they have nothing more to add to that. Well, the allegations come as Candace now faces the legal action, indeed, over her repeated promotion of the so-called baseless conspiracy theory that Brigitte was born a male. Well, that's bullshit. She provided all that evidence, and that's why they're suing her. But we'll play along now. Candace Owens, who's 36 years of age, which I didn't even know. I thought she was like 22. Well, she's saying a quote, high-ranking employee of the French government warned her of an assassination plan purportedly orchestrated and funded by the French president and first lady himself. She did not identify the alleged official or even offer an explanation how they would access to such information, nor does she have to. Who wrote this stupid article? Joshua Wilburn. Okay, well, that's all you need to know. Well, now, in closing, the commentator said that the unnamed official had concrete proof of the plot, but declined to provide any evidence to the followers. Well, I can't take any more. Well, here's her own words from her own X post. Well, she said the following. I'll read you just a bit of it. She said 2 days ago, quote, 2 days ago, I was contacted by the high-ranking employee of the French government after determining that the person's position and proximity to the French couple, I've deemed the information they gave me to be credible enough to share it publicly in the event that something does happen. Now, in short, the person claims that the Macrons have executed upon and paid for my assassination. Yes, you read that correctly. More specifically, that the green light was given to a small team in the National Invamware Intervention Group. I'm told that there is one Israeli that is on this assassination squad, and the plans were formalized. Again, this person provided concrete proof that they were well placed within the French government apparatus. Further to this point, the person claims that Charlie Kirk's assassination trained with the French Legion 13th Brigade with multi-state involvement. In fact, journalist Xavier Pessoard's life is at risk. This is deadly serious. The head of state of France apparently wants us both dead and has authorized professional units to carry this out. I ask everyone to retweet this and share this. I do not know who in the American government can be trusted, since this source claims our leaders are fully aware. But I have more specific information, which is definitive, verifiable, should they care to reach out to me. And finally, to the brave official in France who did this because they were so moved by the evil of Charlie's public execution to risk their own life. May God bless you truly. Let all be revealed. Well, yeah, there you have it. That's just a taste of what we covered just yesterday for Sunday brunch. Yeah, you missed out on that. Now we're going to continue now with some very serious things here. Trump's health is now in question more than ever before. And yeah, people are catching on to that. Never mind the fact that we've seen 5 different versions of Trump. We've seen Trump with his baby blue eyes. Yes, where he has just changed his features. He has Betty Davis eyes one day. Next thing, he looks like a Sophia Loren eyeyes. You know what I mean? It's cinnamon brown at that case. Well, now let's continue now on our forge ahead in real deal politics, because this is a wartime show again, as we've always have been, and it's only getting worse now. Well, Trump's health, there it is Trump Health Watch continues. So does the news on it now, as this is coming out of AP, the most interested name in news. Well, now Trump is checked for lower leg swelling and diagnosed with a common condition in older adults. Now, that's an old story. That's what they want us to see. It's just those, what are they called? The varicose veins, whatever that case is. But is it really just that? Now they're saying the alarm has sounded even worse. So that was all the way back in July. Now they're saying that the alarm of urgency over President Donald Trump's health after 6 worrying signs. I'll tell you what that is now. As now White House insiders who are reportedly familiar with the health concerns, well, now they're concerned about the physical and, yes, the mental health following a series of alarming behaviors from Donald Trump in the past recent weeks. I would say yes. Whoever is controlling Trump is now taking the United States to war once again. So that's a major sign, I would say. Well, there are 6 main causes for concern. Several members of Trump's inner circle told publications they cited the president's lackluster public appearances, his gait, his apparent confusion, his inclination to govern via rambling truth social post. Yeah, his attack on MGT. Yeah, that's a big one. And Thomas Massey's wife, his haphazard attire, his lack of engagement at the White House. It all comes after health fears were raised when worrying sign was spotted on President Donald Trump's hands. Yeah, he's turning into Mitch McConnell's blueberry hands. We all saw it. You were there. Trump has also reportedly failed to show up in the Oval Office on Mondays in nearly well over a month now. At the same time, his recent golf outings have been at a course over there in Sterling, Virginia, instead of Mar-a-Lago, where he usually does it. So there, in its own right, presents some indications of some major health concerns. Yeah, I would say so. But how about for the fact that, there's 5 other people playing him. There 5 people are said to be in the military themselves, 5 generals. That's a health concern, wouldn't you say? I'd say so. Now, before we get to the poetry corner here, there's now in political standards. Well, what about the HHS and what have they done to protect our children and adults as ourselves from the bad food out there, the food-demics? What have they done? Instead, we see kind of an uptick on this new kind of fad. It's called bioengineered meat. You might have heard about it. In fact, I won't touch anything. I won't eat anything from Tyson because Tyson and their chicken, well, they teamed up with Bill Gates himself. Bill Gates, who is the college dropout who became a computer guy, as we know. Then he became the salesman. Then he became everyone's doctor. Now he's everybody's chef. It's disgusting. What's more disgusting is the fact that the executives of these food companies, big food, big agro, well, they know exactly what they're doing, but they're laughing about it too. In fact, they got caught recently as now Campbell's for Campbell's soup, which I loved growing up, and a lot of people do. It's very Americana. Well, now it's now said as a hot mic was caught there, they're using bioengineered meat, whatever the hell that is. But all I know is we can't be eating this anymore, as Soylent Green is now made of people, and so is Campbell's.
A former Campbell's Soup Company employee is taking legal action against the food giant, and he's making some explosive allegations about one of its top executives. Good evening, and thanks for joining us at 6. I'm Ty Steele.
I'm Kimberly Gill. Those allegations are now at the center of a lawsuit claiming the company's vice president went on an hour-long tirade attacking the company's products and employees before taking aim at its customers.
And the former employee recorded it all. Eric Erickson shares that recording and what the company is saying about it.
We have shit for poor people. Who buys our shit?
And that's just part of an over an hour-long rant, says former security analyst for Campbell's, Robert Garza of Monroe.
I don't buy Campbell's products barely anymore. It's unhealthy. Now that I know what the in it, even in a can of soup, I look at it, look at meat, bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. You?
The recording allegedly of Campbell's VP and Chief Information Security Officer Martin Bally.
He has no filter.
Bally, along with another supervisor and Campbell Soup Company, named in a lawsuit filed Thursday. The suit claiming Bally made racist remarks, admits to coming to work high, and Garza fired for coming forward.
What do you think about the things that he was saying?
Oh, just pure disgust.
Garza says he usually worked remotely for Campbell's headquarters, based in Camden, New Jersey. But thinking he'd be discussing his salary with Bally, he says the recording taken in person at a restaurant.
They couldn't think for the I'm like, you dumb
Garza says he felt sick after the rant, deciding to go to his direct supervisor in January, keeping the recordings to himself.
He had never had any disciplinary action. They had never written him up for poor work performance.
Garza says no one at Campbell's ever followed up, and it's taken him 10 months to find a new job, calling the way the canned soup company handled it simply terrible.
They have a motto, like we treat you like family, here at Campbell's, come work for us, we treat our employees like family. That's not the case.
We did just receive a statement from Campbell's that says, quote, if accurate, the comments in the recording are unacceptable. They do not reflect our values and the culture of our company. We are actively investigating this matter. We've also reached out directly to Martin Bally.
Well, that seals the fate for me. I'm never going to be eating Campbell's soup ever again. I don't know about you out there. Yeah, that just made my mind up, didn't you? Yeah, that's at least he's health conscious for himself, just not all of us. These people literally just are essing on humanity. That's crimes against humanity right there. Okay, so we're now going to go to a very erotic story here, as just incredible. I had to get into the specifics on this next story with our Real Deal members yesterday. It was very difficult, but I'm going to try to do it again because it's very telling why some of these decisions that are coming out of this administration are going back and going against everything they ran on, stood for, and why people voted for this administration to come in. They voted for no war. They voted for clean food. They voted for no surveillance of people's health and the wearables. And, RFK Jr., who seemed to have won the will of the people. But when he started hanging out with Rabbi Shmuley, well, we started to smell a Shmuley, as in blackmail, compromised. And that brings us to now this, as we go to RFK Jr.'s Poetry Corner. Well, yes, RFK, who's married to Cheryl Hines, but he has some skeletons in his closet right next to a very, very salacious poetry book. Yes, he does. Let me tell you about this now. Well, RFK Jr. has a erotic poetry that has now been released. Yes, he does. And it's beyond romantic at this point. It's straight up raunchy. And having to read that with Jim Fetzer next to you on screen is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do as a broadcaster. But now Robert F. Kennedy, who's now sent reporter at the time, Olivia Nuzzi, a raunchy self-penned poetry during the pair's alleged digital affair, which began when the pair met in 2023. What's the latest in a series of bombshells now being revealed by journalist and former political writer Ryan Lizza? That's a girl. Yes, Ryan's now the name of women out there. It is a trendy thing now. Who was engaged to Nuzzi, a former New York Magazine star. Now, without getting too detailed, but just so you know what we're talking about, one of the poetry corners of RFK, well, it opens with, and it's titled as, and everybody's talking about it, as the following quote, "Your open mouth awaiting my harvest." That's his most classical penned poetry to date. Yes, that's right. The Health and Human Services Secretary allegedly wrote that, according to the Daily Yeast publication. Now, well, here's some other things that have been written by the Romeo of our time. He said, quote, "Drink from me, love. I mean to squeeze your cheeks, to force open your mouth. I'll hold your nose as you look up at me and encourage you to do something. Don't spill a drop. I'm a river. You are my canyon. I mean to flow through you. I mean to subdue and tame you, my love. P.S. I love you. RFK Jr." Gosh, Hemingway has nothing on him. I tell you. Swooned. Well, Lizza, who was fired from the New Yorker over there in 2017 over alleged sexual misconduct, made the scandalous claims in a fiery article on his website. So Ryan Lizza, okay, so this is the boyfriend of the woman who had this, or let's just say the recipient of RFK's poetry, Ryan Lizza. Okay, that's a guy now. We've switched his gender. Well, he was fired for some similar things all the way back when, as his former partner gears up to release now they tell-all book, American Canto. So they're both going in on this. They want to cash out and make some major money off RFK Jr., even though that's going to hurt our, health advancement here and freedom. Well, he said that the poem that I tried to read to you just now, which he did not explain how he obtained, along with many others that are extremely too explicit to print, changed everything in his relationship with Nuzzi, his girlfriend, the concubine of Bobby. Well, he later then said, quote, "Thanks to Bobby, I'm now aware of something called, oh God, felching." He added the poems. I'm not even going to tell you what that is. RFK is a dirty mother effer. I'll tell you that. Oh my God. Well, Lizza, who alleged in previous tell-all article that Nuzzi had a digital and mind you too, we're not really seeing what she's sending back to Bobby. This is very one-sided, but even if it's just one-sided, that alone is enough to want to gouge your eyes out of just the illustrations going on in your head here. Thanks to Bobby, I'm aware of something called felching. Well, Liz, who alleged in his article here, that article that Nuzzy had a digital relationship. He also claimed his ex-fiance has relationships with MSNBC host Keith Olbermann and disgraced South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford. So this hussy, this hussy that we're discussing here is her own personal honeypot who gets off compromising men in very specific positions of power. And how she's doing it is not necessarily, from what we can tell, is through the physical deeds and acts of it, but rather the compromising strategy of compositions is what we're learning here. This is something else. Now, continuing now. Well, according to the article, Liz discovered his alleged affair of his ex after he found a half-finished love letter addressed to another man. And in the very enduring letter titled, "If I Swallowed Every Drop of Water from the Tower Above Your House," is the name of the letter she penned. Olivia had written, "I would still thirst for you." What a classic. I won't go further, but this is something. This is something she's had. Yeah, I remember that. Now she was the one who had the engaged in the affair with Mark Sanford, the former governor. I forgot about that all the way back in 2009. That was huge. It was so big, just to recall that it caused the then governor to run off, I believe, to South America in shame and disgrace. Yeah, that will never be forgotten there. South Carolina governor. Now, just to conclude here, Nuzzy has also released extracts from her upcoming memoir describing how she grappled with her desire for RFK. She acknowledged an emotional relationship with him, but said her reporting was not affected before New York Magazine put her on leave. It's needless to say that now both her and Ryan Lizza broke off their engagement. To conclude, wow, that is something else. So I guess the question out there I should ask everyone, maybe women can answer for me. If this was your spouse, is that really cheating? Is that cheating? Is that, or is that just very raunchy, salacious poetry? That would be the question. And then some would say that's even worse than a physical affair for women to accept. I must say. Yes, Kimberly says, a black book of poems. You named it. You know it. That's for certain on that. Yeah, that's for certain on that. We have Michelle Drum saying, "Is this for real?" Sadly, Michelle, this is for real. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Definitely for real. Here we have Amy. She says, "If my husband had tried to write me a poem, I would I would start laughing before two lines were being mentioned." Yeah, I would too. I would too. Here, let me look on Rumble here because I'm very curious. And here's the other question: is this going to affect RFK? Going forward with policy? Because at the same time, we're living in the post Monica Lewinsky and the Starr Report from 1998. I mean, that was, as young as I was back then, that was the most embarrassing and tough thing to have to endure. And hear your grandparents ask what certain terms were, what was a life altering moment. Let me check Rumble here real quick. Well, we have, yes, thank you, Margaret. Jim had the uncensored copy of the poems, and having Jim say certain terms the other day was very daunting for me. It was not easy. We have Manny Lynn saying, "Yeah, it's a tough topic. Romance has been murmured." I agree. We have Dave Nader 82 saying, "As curious as I am about the whole thing, I feel sick within the free preview." Yes, Dave, this is a very career low for me as well. Almont, I'm not even going to repeat that, but thank you for participating. We have Hazmat who said turd burglar. Just because, that's all he said. Also, the word is Diddy. Thank you for that. Rebel Mama says, "This is the first show, Dean of Deans, that didn't make me hungry." I don't think so either. No, I lost my appetite. So there you have it. That ends that. And thank you, Amy, for it. Yes, Claudine says, stay single. It's the best. And finally, Liz Merchant says, so she never talked dirty to her fiance. Yeah, apparently this is all news to him. Apparently this is all news to him, isn't it? Okay, so that is how that one goes. And that's going to bring us to one final story here as we continue finally here at Real Deal Politics with, well, here's a interesting story as now the ShamWow guy is running for Congress. Remember him? I thought this was a story that would help us cleanse the last one. Anything at this point. Well, the ShamWow guy who is famous for the infomercials of just the last 20 years is now making the decision to run for Congress. Boy, is he going to find out what a real sham Congress is. Well, the ShamWow guy is indeed running and is looking to wipe the floor with competition. That's right. Offer the Vince Shalomi, his name, the once prominent infomercial pinchman, is now running for the Congress over there in Texas, according to a filing with the state's Republican Party. Now, Shalomi, who's running for the seat held by Republican Representative John Carter, who's 84 and has decided to retire finally, took him long enough, who has served more than 2 decades in Congress and has been doing nothing but collecting dust and Social Security checks. Now, Carter announced earlier in this month that he run for re-election, so Shalomi has an uphill battle against the entrenched incumbent. So he probably was going to retire, then decided that he can't allow the ShamWow guy to take his seat and said, well, I'm not retiring anymore. I'm going to go until I'm 94. Now, the former pitchman, who's best known for his role as the ShamWow Tells, as you may recall, if you don't, well, it's this guy right here. Yeah, this is the gentleman of question. Man who looked like he got electrocuted and needs a ShamWow to get back to life. Well, his odds of winning are, well, they're very bleak, many have said. But what's going to anchor him, experts have also said, is Shalomi was arrested on suspicion of battery after a fight with a woman, which she was believed to have lost. Well, prosecutors declined to press charges at that time. The ShamWow guy told NBC all the way back then that he takes full responsibility for his actions and that he would cut down on partying. And he wouldn't party so much. He said sometimes people make mistakes. So there's just a little story for you that anything's possible in this reality, even if it's a sham. I'd say so. Well, that's going to bring us now to some Real Deal International as we have a lot to get to. So let's get on the Concorde and go overseas to Real Deal International. Real Deal International. Let's get to it, shall we? Well, this is coming out of Natural News, and something that is very, very poignant into the World War III carving up of the entire continent of Africa, which is one of those places that all the superpowers have been, and don't plan on leaving soon or anytime in the near future. Well, let me tell you a bit about it now, as Africa is slowly splintering into 2 distinct landmasses, western and eastern portions to be exact. Due to tectonic forces, the new ocean forming between them over the next 5 to 10 million years, which one Texas congressman will still be here. The 84-year-old guy, yeah, he'll still be doing his job then. Now, the continent, the 4,000-mile-long Eastern African Rift is the primary fracture zone, widening at least 5 to 16 millimeters per year, as you know, accompanied by volcanic activity and earthquakes. Now, the continental rifting in the Afar region, where the 3 tectonic rifts converge, is stretching and thinning Earth's crust until it ruptures, forming a new oceanic crust itself, similar to past supercontinent breakups like the Pangea. So if you don't know, just my memory tells me from biology class all the way back when, and geology for that fact, plate tectonics, the moving of the crust, you see it in Japan all the time. That's why Japan has made their buildings like on springs, so it doesn't break all the time. Where a lot of these third world, second world nations have yet to do that, and they just collapse. Or countries that don't even get earthquakes, but they get a earthquake weapon done on them, and just the whole city just goes into rubble. Yeah, it's just incredible. But continuing on this now. Now, researchers have analyzed 1960s magnetic field data, revealing that magnetic stripes that confirm Africa and Arabia began separating tens of million years ago. As now Africa is now undergoing the slow motion geological transformation that will eventually split the continent into two. And we've heard about that. Who recalls all the way 5 years ago, the big talk of the town was the little island off of Africa called La Palma. La Palma. That was said to, it was going to fall into the Atlantic Ocean, causing a massive tidal wave that would engulf the entire eastern half of the United States. Yeah, remember that? And then after the election, we never heard about it again. Now, scientists predict that over the next 5 to 10 million years, as we just stated, that this will occur, or at least the midterm elections, it might come around again. And when this happens, if it happens, if we're still around and when it happens, there's going to be a birth of a new ocean. Well, this is quite interesting, this is now known as continental rifting. Yes. Unlike the continental grifting, but Israel's in the next story. Now, this involves stretching and thinning of the Earth's crust, ruptures, creating new oceanic crust in itself. All of this is a reminder of Earth's dynamic nature, but also the madmen that are trying to create nature and play God, and who are prematurely trying to get volcanoes to erupt to stop humanity from surviving, as the rise of the bots have only just begun, to quote Karen Carpenter. And there's how that one goes for you. So Africa's Great Divide is more than just a imperialistic nature at this point. Continuing now. Well, now this next story here is something that we kind of always known about, and it's no surprise here, as now former U.S. State Department spokesperson Mr. Matt Miller has now acknowledged what we all kind of knew many, many moons ago, that Israel, not Hamas, it was Israel that blocked any possibility of reaching any peace agreement, despite an entire year of blaming Hamas. That's true. We'll check this out, and we'll discuss after.
It's consistent with the pattern we saw for many months. They were always looking for ways to add conditions or make the terms more difficult. We were really close to a deal, and the Prime Minister added these new conditions around the Philadelphia corridor and around Netzarim.
Yeah. We knew that. Thank you, Captain. What's his last name? Obvious. Yeah, there it is. Speaking of just some unfortunate deeds, well, Germany comes to mind, as it always usually does. Germany is a home of the violent migrants, the place there that is very well known for no due process. Yeah, that Germany. Yes. Well, now they're now enduring a financial crisis, or not just yet, as they're just saying it's imminent in every German city now. This is huge. Well, now the foundations of Germany's economic stability are crumbling, and the warning sirens are blaring from the town halls across the overrun nation, which is just pretty much at this point a walking mat for anyone that wants to just walk all over them because of the guilt. Well, now here's some key points for where I'm getting at. As the mayor of a city called Essen over there has declared that almost every German city is on the verge of bankruptcy. That's right. And you have to remember, too, Germany was the head of the Eurozone. You got to remember back in early 2002 when the euro and the currency euro was taking over everybody in Europe. And everybody was giving up their currencies to be part of the euro because on one hand, they wanted to counterbalance the United States and how we do it here. So they wanted to make it all in one. On the other hand, they wanted to really create the one world government, and that was one method of doing it, put everyone on the one currency. And on the third hand, which we found much later and we presented to all of you, was, well, we want to get rid of countries and counties, state lines, and make it all one big continent so we can trade better, wink, wink. Remember that? Well, so that this is true now. Over there in the North Rhine-Westphalia, only 10 out of 396 municipalities can present a balanced budget. So 10 out of 396 city halls in the treasuries can present a balanced budget. Now, the total deficit for all German cities has now surged to 30 billion euros for 2025. Refugee accommodation is through the roof. The integrations are cited as primary drivers of the budget shortfalls. So, in a way, this is almost retribution to the Germans as they are still being punished for World War II, and if they're just a teenager of today. Now, mass immigration is now estimated to cost Germany trillions of euros, including a massive financial burden instead of solution and demographic issues now. Federal government's aid packages for cities is widely seen as insufficient to address the scale of crises. The over-indebtedness among private citizens is also rising, compounding to the national financial distress. Yeah, it's true. And the amount of assaults being done on women in Germany is almost as high as the national deficit. But to also be a retrospective historian here, when Merkel was in charge, they were sent to be the head of the financial capitals of the European EU. And they put all of their debts. So this is what happened. They put all their debts, all these elites of the European countries put all their debts when they changed the currency into little places like Greece. So I was there in Greece in 2002 when they got rid of their drachmas currencies and went into euro. And you know what happened immediately? Boom. That's when the debt came in. So that president back then, that prime minister, sold out his own country. And what a kind of theme that we're still seeing played out to date, I must say. So there's that one for you. And finally here, this is an incredible story of, accidents, I guess you could say, happen even in the deadly, morbid kind of fashion. Well, look at this one here. This is coming out of Thailand, which it's a place we don't go or get too often here in Real Deal International. But this one is very noteworthy. Is now a Taiwan woman was found alive in a coffin after being brought in for cremation. Now, ever had those moments of weakness where you just had to take a nap during the day and wake up in a coffin right next to a fiery pit where they're going to cremate you? Well, that's exactly what has now taken place over there in Bangkok. Yes, amongst some other things that happened in Bangkok, which we'll get to another time. Well, now a woman in Thailand shocked a temple where they're all Buddhist. Yeah, that's right. And the staff, when she started moving in her coffin after being brought in there for cremation. That's right. Her name is Wat Rat Prakhong Thum. Yes, Rat Prakhong Thum. Yes, Miss Thum, we'll say. Who a Buddhist temple over there in province of the Notten Borough on the outskirts of Bangkok posted a video just recently showing a woman lying in a white coffin in the back of a pickup truck, slightly moving her arms and head, leaving the temple and their staff extremely bewildered. I would say creeped out too. Now, the temple's general and financial affairs manager told recently the Associated Press, that Monday that the 65-year-old woman's brother drove her from the province of Phitsanulok to be cremated. He said they heard a faint knock coming from the coffin, just like this. I was a bit surprised, so I asked them to open the coffin and everyone was startled, the brother said. I saw her opening her eyes slightly, knocking on the side of the coffin. She must have been knocking for quite some time. Yeah, I would. But if it was me, I'd be doing more than knocking. Now, according to the brother, said his sister had been bedridden for about 2 years. And when her health deteriorated and she became unresponsive, appearing to stop breathing for at least 2 days, the brother then placed her in a coffin and made a 500-mile journey to the hospital over there in Bangkok, to which the woman had previously expressed a wish to donate her organs. Never express that wish to donate your organs, because this is what happens every time. All the time. Now, the hospital refused to accept the brother's offer, and he didn't have an official death certificate for his sister. His temple offers free cremation services for the dead, that is, not necessarily for the living in this case, which is why the brother approached them just over the weekend, but was also refused due to a missing document. So thank God he had a forgetful mind and forgot these documents, or else his sister would be in an ashtray by now. Now, in closing, the temple manager said that while explaining how to get a death certificate, they heard the knocking. Thank God they did. They then assessed her and sent her to a nearby hospital and sent her on her way. And the temple would recover the expense. So there it is. You know, it sounds like the brother is a total dimwit, and there's a bit more to that story there. But hey, miracles happen even in Bangkok, I'll tell you, where it makes a hard man humble sometimes. That is the truth on that one. Well, now that's going to bring us to some other hard, cold facts, especially when it comes to people like Dr. Phil, as now we go to some real deal showbiz, shall we? Real deal showbiz. And let's talk about it now, as some major stories are now underway. As this one is Dr. Phil. Good, not so much. Yeah, Dr. Phil, who is board and certified, allegedly, doctor, who is really even just recently put a lot of support behind Donald Trump, but also a lot of support behind the IDF and over there in Israel. You know, all good deeds, even if they're nefarious, well, they don't go unpunished in this case. Well, now a major financial crisis is now underway with Dr. Phil, not just Germany anymore, as Dr. Phil is, who was America's best-known celebrity therapist for quite some time, has now, his empire has crashed. I guess so. Well, it's not a good day for Dr. Phil, they're saying, as now Mr. Philip McGraw, Dr. Philip McGraw, the genital celebrity, the genial celebrity psychologist who spent a career calling out behavior and of others and doling out his fingers, found himself upbraided by a bankruptcy judge. Yes, that's true. Well, his company, Merritt Street Media, which was all the talk just a year ago, well, it's now officially filed for bankruptcy protection in as early and far back as July. A little more than a year after he launched the media startup and then was sued by its distribution partner, Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN. Wow, that's a Christian broadcasting company. TBN has the evangelical pastors on there, like Tim Crouch, who was caught with a male escort from, I believe it was Harlem, and a big bag of meth over there in Big Bear Mountain. And that's what I said. Since when do guys from Harlem go to the mountains? Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Well, in this case, during the nearly 3-hour hearing over there in Dallas just 4 weeks ago, the U.S. bankruptcy judge, Scott Everett, said that, quote, he's never seen a case like this. A Chapter 11 case filing by McGraw's company was attempting. Now, Everett cited evidence indicating that Dr. Phil had violated a court order by deleting unflattering text messages that allegedly described his plan to use the bankruptcy to wipe out creditor claims. He said, quote, what makes this case very unique, unfortunately, is that it's been plagued with attempted destruction of relevant evidence and less than truthful testimony by some of the key players. And one of those players is Dr. Phil, the man who's bald and has the mustache, he said. And, you know, I'll tell you this. This was a talk of the media hallways for quite some time because Dr. Phil thought he was going to have like the new network, you know, like all these guys. You know, you saw that with the pillow guy. What's his name? The man who... one of the most successful crack addicts of all time. What's his damn name? It'll come to me. So it just falls flat because they're enduring what I've been enduring now for almost 5 years. It's called censorship. It's called media monopolies. You know, where Meta, YouTube, and the little baby YouTube Rumble, Well, they control the search engine optimizations. They manipulate the results. And that's why you see certain others out there who manipulate the results by putting your name or, people of big statures names in their titles. Called, that's called clickbait. So that's what he probably realized right away. This ain't 2019 anymore by a long, long stretch, is it? That's how that one goes. So, yes, sad to say now, that brings us to our next story here. Well, it's not again. Not again. Smokey Robinson is in the news. Yes, he is. And this time you can really track the trail of his tears all the way to the courtroom. Sad to say. Yeah, Smokey Robinson is now facing another scandal, as the first scandal was a woman who said to have worked for him as an assistant accused him of sexual assault. Yes, she did. Well, that didn't go away. Another accusation has now come around with a little twist this time, as now Smokey Robinson's sex abuse scandal widens with now a new male accuser. Well, that can't be. How can that be true? Because, I mean, Smokey, he looks so manly. How's that possible? Okay. Oh, you know what? That is, he's wearing a scarf. What is that here? Well, Smokey Robinson, 6 months after he was accused of sexual assault by one of his former employees, 2 new accusers have now joined the lawsuit, including a man. The 4 initial Jane Doe accusers filed a $50 million civil complaint against Robinson all the way back in May 6, if you recall. We covered it or over there at the LA Superior County Court. Now, the women alleged sexual battery assault, false imprisonment, gender violence, creating a hostile work environment. Now, Robinson and his wife, who were accused of fostering hostile work environments, denied all allegations. The accusers filed a motion to amend their complaint and added 2 more alleged victims, a man and a woman. It's not passing the smell test to me. I mean, that's got to be, the man's 84 years old. How much of an assaulter can he be? But let's see what the accusations are. I'm willing to stand corrected, although it's very rare. Well, now, one new accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, number 5, alleges that she dealt with constant harassment while working for Robinson as a housekeeper. The woman says she was employed by the Motown legend just from 2005 to 2011. All right, so, you see where this is going. She alleges Robinson would frequently call her to the second-floor bathroom in his house while he was in the shower. The singer would ask Jane Doe 5 to enter the shower and scrub his back. Come on, those hard-to-reach places. Who can really get to them? You need a little assistance sometimes, especially when you're, 84 years old. Now, the complaint goes to say that on more than 10 occasions, Robinson allegedly grabbed the woman's hand and tried to force her to touch his Smokey Robinson below. The other Smokey, little Smokey. Now, Jane Doe 5, that is, alleges that Robinson frequently walked around the house naked and would rub his elbow against her breast. She says because of the repeated harassment and unwanted touching, she became traumatized and underwent breast reduction surgery back in 2015. So that's his fault. Okay, so that's what the women have to say. But what about the man? Now, to me, that's a stretch. Well, the second new accuser now, identified as John Doe 1, says he was hired by Robinson and his wife to detail their cars on a recurring basis over there in Chatsworth all the way back in 2013. So what took him so long? Did he have a jog his memory for 15 years? Now, the man alleges that the lawsuit that Robinson made, the man alleges in the lawsuit that Robinson made, quote, vulgar and offensive sexual advances, but John Doe says he responded by telling Robinson to put clothes on. Okay. Now, also in closing, John Doe claimed he was fired shortly when Robinson allegedly grabbed his hand and tried to force it onto his erected personality. Right there, the man says he left the house after the incident, but the singer's wife called him a year later and asked him this is, I'll tell you this, $50 million. And you look at the amount of time between when that guy worked there. I mean, this is solid and as a piece of Swiss cheese at this point. I'm not going to just woefully go along with people who are trying to harm the legendary singer who gave us so many great tunes, but 84 years old, and now they remembered all this just all these years later. Well, speaking of just sick, gay, twisted scandals, well, now there's this one. Let's talk about some gay sheep, shall we? Well, it's in the news, and it's hard to believe, but we have to stick with the theme now as the wool of gay sheep. Yes. Sheep are, well, they have alternative lifestyles as well. But the wool of gay sheep now passes the woke test for New York fashion debut. As now fashion designers are not just using any wool anymore. They want to make sure the wool that they're getting from sheep are gay, or of gay sheep, that is. As they made their debut appearance just over the weekend at the New York Fashion Show as part of a collection campaigning to save animals from slaughter, specifically animals who just happen to be gay. Well, and that's all we need to know at that story. There's not much room for cream on there, but it's more signs of how mad society has become as the Babylonian horrors that run it continue to express and portray that. What say you out there? Would you wear wool of gay sheep? Is that against your constitution? Is that against your ethics? Does it matter? Is wool just wool, and is love just love? I often wonder. Here is, yes, Amy, $50 million. Good God is right. Good God, y'all. I don't know about that. And like you said, yeah, a lot of facial work. You see, so let's look at that again. And yeah, he's different these days. Look at that. So he's got his Captain EO outfit on, the red scarf, like Scarlett O'Hara. Wonderful. Not again. Here we have on Rumble. We have people. Hazmat says age didn't stop Bill Cosby. Yeah, age didn't. Well, you know what's well with Bill Cosby. Thank you for bringing that up. These allegations against Bill Cosby were from the early '80s and portions of the '70s, which really these women's memories. I guess they were jogging it for 30 years and didn't really come around until he tried to purchase NBC. That's and said what to have happened, and it's a shame it happened to Bill Cosby. Like many people of certain ages and generations, I grew up with the Cosby Show, and I feel bad for the people in there whose residual checks from all the reruns probably stopped after that. They think, but thank you, Hazmat. Yes, Margaret, wool is just wool. You know, wool is just wool. You know, if the sheep want to be gay, they can do what they want. It's just wool. Rebel Mama says she hates wool. Is because it's gay. See, that's discriminatory. We have Al Majadi saying Oprah made him. Do you think she will bail him out, or is that Dr. Phil? Yeah, good question. David Nader says Dr. Phil convinced my girlfriend in college that I was cheating on her. Dr. Phil. Dave, I'm sorry. That's horrible, Dave. I kid you not. I received for a present. I don't remember which year. I received a Dr. Phil cookbook like 20 years ago for people that are like a diet cookbook. Out of all people, Dr. Phil made a dietary recipe book for people who wanted to. And so not only was this a friend of mine indirectly calling me fat at that time, but they got me a Dr. Phil diet regimen book. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Sorry that happened to you, Dave. We have Carolyn Shepard said, most of us grew up watching Cosby. Yeah, we did. We certainly did. And, you know, Fat Albert, remember that cartoon? Yeah, Fat Albert, that was a big one. And it's just a shame how that all transpired with Cosby. And in fact, Theo died. Theo died recently, Malcolm Jamal Warner. But thank you for that memory. Speaking of diet regimens, I shared this with the members yesterday. You might have noticed someone else who's sharing their diet regimen is before we get out of here, I just noticed the time. Well, this is the health ranger himself, Mr. Mike Adams, has now gone the next level. He says, I don't normally post topless pictures of myself, but in the sunset, for that fact, after a forest workout, but in the interest of inspiring others, he did. And this is what he's saying. You can look good like this, age 55 plus, 0 miracle jabs, 0 prescription medications, no doctor checkups, no seed oils or toxic processed foods, no missed 6 days ever, no gym membership, no flu, no shot ever, no toxic personal care products or laundry detergents, no drugs, no psychedelics, no THC, no alcohol, and I say no fun. And that's not doctor, but Mike Adams' regiment for that. Interesting. And what I don't, what you didn't see, I should say, is Mike's other photo shoot that wasn't so PC. It's this one right here. This is when the cameras weren't looking. Well, this is Mike here as the Health Rangers punk rock report that he does secretly. It's coming soon to Brighteon. There it is. You see the red heifer, you see Mr. Rabbi, and you see Benny Hinn, not Benny Hill in the background there. So thank you, Mike, as your true colors are certainly being shared with the viewers here tonight. Okay. Well, that's going to bring us now to, that portion of the show now. Thank you, Final Thought, pianist. Well, final thought here for the Mind Weapons episode is we're not just on the brink of war. War is now imminent once again, and it's an illegal war. It's an illegal over-aggression by the U.S., who's being used once again by Israel to weaken their adversaries on their behalf. And they're doing it not through a polite suggestion, not through can you do me a solid favor, but through blackmail, and also through emotional blackmail of, we're going to drop a nuclear bomb if you guys don't do it, and really get the World War III kinetic war going. And we're going to be in this mess, this predicament, as we've been in my entire life, with endless wars, as long as Israel is connected to us. As long as Israel is, let's be true. As long as Israel is a country, the world's screwed. That's how I see it, because these people are psychotic, bloodthirsty demons. And I'm past caring. My gloves are off. Their gloves never were on. If the military was truly fighting for our freedom, well, they would turn that ship of the Gerald Ford ship carrier and they would sail it right to Tel Aviv, because that's where the true wicked reside. Everyone knows it. Let's stop pretending. It's not like I'm trying to make it in Hollywood anymore, or I care about being canceled or black. I'm already shadow banned. We should just go for it and say whatever the hell we want, because you know why? That's the truth. That's the truth. And we're going to be in this mess as long as that POS place is still ruling the ruse. And I'm tired of it. That's how I feel. And sometimes I can't take it anymore. Anyways, on that note, I will be back here tomorrow night with World at War, and with Jim. We'll give you a major update on the conflict in Venezuela. Hopefully, the sailors were just having steak and lobster, the surf and turf, on just an incredible Monday. That's all, and nothing more to it. But odds are probably not. So until then, for Jim Fetzer and the rest of us here at Real Deal Media, thank you for sharing a bit of your night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, always remember to stay tuned and stay awake, and always remember to reach out and have that soul to squeeze. Good night, everybody.
I've got bad disease, and from my brain is where I bleed. Insanity, it seems, it's got me by my soul to squeeze. With all the love from me, With all the dying dreams I scream, in angels in my dreams, it turned to demons on the green. Where I go, I just don't know. I've gotta take it slow. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some of my good time, yeah. Today, love a smile on me. You took away my pain, said please, I'll let you ride for free. You gotta let it be to me. Where I go, I just don't know. I've gotta take it slow now. When I find my peace of mind, I'm gonna give you some